Hello, my name is Raj Shah, and I'm the managing editor of Desh-Videsh Media Group and Desh-Videsh Magazine. Let me take this opportunity to introduce today's guest speaker, soft-spoken and modest Jyotsna Narayanswamy. She is a software engineer by profession and spiritual student and a teacher by choice. She likes learning about Hindu scripture in her free time and enjoys attending satsang session at local temple and Swami Jyotirmayanand ashram in Miami. She taught kids at the Shiva Vishnu temple for about 10 years, including Ramayana, Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita classes. She has also helped kids at South Florida Hindu temple for preparing a Gita competition. For about 6 years now, she has been teaching Bhagavad Gita to local kids in South Florida area from her home in Coral Spring. After COVID pandemic, she is running these classes online. Sometimes back, she wrote an article in Desh-Videsh titled How Gita Transformed Her Life, which was very well received by all the Desh-Videsh readers online as well as the print magazine. This interview is a result of that article. Welcome, Jyotsna ji.
Thank you, Raji.
On behalf of Desh-Videsh, subscribers, readers, listeners, we thank you very much, for allocating this time.
Thank you.
So let's overall in the beginning, I wanted to talk only about Bhagavad Gita, but as you know, and all our audience know, that Florida governor has declared October as a Hindu Heritage Month. So I like to talk a little bit about Hindu Heritage Month or Hindu heritage, and then our expertise about teaching the children on a Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, and Hindu scripture. And then we dive into Bhagavad Gita. So go ahead and talk to me and our audience a little bit about the Hindu heritage. What do you mean by Hinduism? What do you mean by Hindu heritage?
Thank you, Raji. It's nice that we are celebrating this Hindu Heritage Month. To me, Hinduism is a way of life. And if we bring up our children with the teachings from our scriptures, so they learn to become better human beings. So since more recently I have been very much involved with the Gita, so there's a lot of lessons. I mean, Gita is like you all know, there is a verse from the Gita Dhyana that says, Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopala nandana partho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham gita amritam mahat. So basically, all the nectar of the Upanishads is in the Gita, basically, and that's the power of the Gita. So when we talk about our scriptures, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and Gita is actually much more understandable, and it's like an instruction manual for us. That's why I believe that Gita needs to be studied way early in life, starting from small children and young adults and middle age. So it's much better to pick that up so you can live a better, happier life. So since I said Hinduism is a way of life, basically, so it's not just mere prayer or recitation of mantras or doing yajnas. So in everyday life, how can we live peacefully? How can we control our emotions and then be more happy? So basically our real nature, our scriptures say, is Sat Chit Ananda. So it is existence, awareness, and bliss. So basically we want to go towards that blissful state. And so by following the teachings of the Gita or the Upanishads, and teaching some of these to children, so even their lives are how to control anger, how to try to calm ourselves when things don't go our way. And how to handle when you become jealous or greed. So their answers to all these questions are there in our scriptures. So that's kind of a nutshell of what the scriptures teach me.
Sure, sure. So, you've been running, this, what I call a Balvia classes or Hindu classes, or the kids classes, at the temple and now at your house. Give me a little bit about the importance of Hindu children, going to these classes. We know a lot of children are going, in temples and Chinmaya mission, classes and so forth. But I really like to see, that every Hindu kid, they start out, with their life, with this kind of classes.
Yeah, I do agree. Actually, I started my son in these classes at the temple, Shiva Vishnu temple, when he was 5 years old. And whatever was available then, there was some Gita competition. So I tried to enroll him in all those. And to me, I feel the way he has grown up, he's a much more sensitive person. He's humble and keeps his ego low. So whatever qualities I would think a child should have, I feel that he has some of those. And I think one of the reasons for that is the study or attending some of these classes early on. So now coming back to the children that I teach, so the kids that I teach, whom I started teaching at home, who join now in Zoom classes, some of them started when they were elementary school children and now have even come up to high school and are still trying to find time and continue and enjoy the classes. So I have told them every time, this is not a compulsion, and I can talk to your parents if you really don't want to come to my class, but they willingly come to this class actually. And in Bhagavad Gita, there are like examples of a tortoise. So we all learn by examples. So like one child told me that just like the tortoise withdraws its limbs. So for, in this country, especially, there's a lot of materialism and it's very hard, for kids not to get attracted towards that, whether it's buying toys or any other material pursuit, basically. So some of the teachings of our, Gita, as the kids try to, as small children, they just learn the shloka, but as they grow older, they start understanding and applying it in their life. And they feel, I think, that it's a little bit more peaceful, their life, by applying this and not getting caught in that competition, which there is no end to it. How much money is enough
Sure,
for us,
sure.
or how many things are, where do you cut the lines? So that's what I think.
So, this question, or basically this question, or this answer, is going to the two class of people. One is the parents, okay, because for the children to get enrolled at the age of 5 or 6, the parents has to be prepared. Parents has to be willing to, take them, Sunday morning or Saturday morning. And then once the children get admitted in the classes, and then they start enjoying it, how to retain those children, for a longer period of time. So, can you give me a couple of examples, like, especially in your, in your own case, how did you manage to have your son, stayed interested for longer period of time? and some of the students whom you're getting, where they are interested in coming even when they are in high school or college?
Okay, as far as my son, I think I would teach in the temple too. We as a family would go and volunteer at the Shiva Vishnu temple. My husband would run the library, and then he was teaching the Hindi classes, and I was teaching classes. So I guess he didn't have much of a choice, but I think he enjoyed them too. But you're exactly right that in the beginning, the parents have to bring the kids couple of weeks. And in my classes specifically, I encourage parents to be in the class too. And all along the 6 years, mothers have attended the classes. It's mostly mothers. But they have enjoyed learning the Bhagavad Gita shlokas themselves. And that helps if some parents know, but some parents don't. So if they also, it's not like take your children and say, you learn, but I don't have to learn. So, if the parents also learn and they have the kids learn better and they get more interested. So it's just another suggestion. So, and it's very important, for the teacher to keep that interest in the child going once the parent brings. So, and there are kids, I have to be honest, there are kids who have dropped out of my classes too. It's not that all the kids have stayed who have come, but many of them have stayed along actually. So, but what I see in the kids, the thing that I try to do, or in the beginning, I was just, teaching the shlokas for them to just recite. But then I started telling the meaning, in their own words. So giving them examples about how to resolve, jealousy in school, or how to resolve, if you want to snitch or you want to tell about somebody, how do you do that? So using some of those shlokas, I would explain these things to the kids. And there is, like, we are all attracted towards some final goal or joy. So I would tell them that, trying to understand the Gita shlokas and living what Gita teaches us helps us in becoming happy forever. So everybody wants happiness. What does a kid want? It buys a toy to get some happiness, but that happiness is not long lasting. So it's just for an hour or a day. So by this means, so they kind of kept understanding that there is something more that you get than what they are getting now. So maybe that interest helped them stay on.
So, very interestingly, 2 points, you brought it out, which I like to bring it to our audience. One is that for the children to get interested and stay interested, parents has to get involved in the activity, in the temple activity, or children's activity, or whatever. But another interesting fact you just mentioned, and I have noticed that too, is that in most of these classes, mom is the one who is bringing the children. So I like to take this opportunity to tell, my counterpart, Hindu man, that this is not a job for only the mom. When you are raising the children, when you are raising your child, it's an equal responsibility. So I'm really hoping, that the Hindu man, take the notice and make sure that they also go, to the classes. Maybe not every time if they are traveling or whatever. Maybe not every time, but at least once in a while. So that's good. That's a good, good tips and good exposure about the Hindu the classes for the children. Now let's get specifically about Bhagavad Gita. As I said in my intro, is that the article you wrote for Desh-Videsh, that was very well received online. We got a lot of clicks, as well as we got a lot of comments via email and so forth. And that is why I got really interested in talking to you through our YouTube channel. So Talking about specifically about the Bhagavad Gita, when did you really started, getting interested in Bhagavad Gita?
Um, like I wrote in that article, when I was a small kid, we used to have, I grew up in India, in Bangalore, and we used to have these power cuts in the night. And my family would sit outside, and my mother would teach us shlokas from the second chapter, the Sthita Prajna shlokas, the last 19 shlokas, I believe, of the second chapter, that describes the qualities of a sthita prajna, or a steadfast person, so a realized person. So they are very famous shlokas in the Gita, and me and my siblings would learn it from my mother. So that was my first introduction to it. Then in the school we used to have competitions, and some of them were on the same set of shlokas. And then in my high school, I don't know, I kind of developed a little more interest into understanding it. I think it's a book by Swami Chidbhavananda from the Ramakrishna Mission. We had this book, and it has more detailed explanations and some small stories from by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, which are very understandable, nice examples. And so I started reading the same shlokas there. And one shloka, the Apuryamanam shloka, really appealed to me. I read the shloka, I memorized the meaning. I don't know if I really understood it fully, but I somehow that attracted me. So that was my first introduction to the Gita. So I continued on when I was here, more detailed reading and reading all the 18 chapters and so on.
So what was your age at that time? You were in teens?
When my mother was teaching, it was like elementary school or something. And by high school, I was trying to read by myself, which was teens.
So sometime back when we were talking, you also learned Sanskrit, very well. How did you get into Sanskrit, that early age?
Very well is not the right word, I guess. But Sanskrit was my first language. So in high school, and which is 8th, 9th, 10th, and then in PUC, 11th and 12th, what we call there. So all 5 years I studied Sanskrit in school. So that's my formal learning of Sanskrit. And then because of my interest in the scriptures, as I read the Gita, so there are books where each word is explained. So by learning that, I kind of learned a little bit more. And then, so reading and writing, I'm comfortable with, but still I can't speak Sanskrit. A few words are here and there, but not fluently. And then I'm not a very knowledgeable person in Sanskrit, but with whatever I know, in the Shiva Vishnu temple, when we started Sanskrit classes, I had a help of another teacher, Anu Aji, who kind of started teaching, but I started assisting her. And then slowly I started teaching too, because we used CDs from Sanskrit Bharati, which are very, very nice actually to learn Sanskrit, spoken Sanskrit, and very simple sentences, and they introduce concept after concept. So I started learning by myself, understanding small little stories in Sanskrit. So for about, I don't know, 1 or 2 years, I helped in the temple teach. So still I have a lot more to learn.
Well, of course. Well, that is the best part about, all of us, that, you always, you are always in a learning, so, again, coming back to the Bhagavad Gita, as we know, there are 700 slokas in Bhagavad Gita. You already mentioned a couple of slokas, but if you have to pick, and I know it's very difficult for me. So, but I'm going to ask, if you have to pick 5 most important slokas, which one, will be?
Okay, yeah, I was kind of making some notes to write down some shlokas to mention. So I picked 5 shlokas to tell the youth specifically, and 5 shlokas I won't say they are the most important, and in different phases of life, you feel some shlokas are more important than the others.
Sure.
But some shlokas that I like, and I'll just share some of them. Okay, this is chapter 2. It comes in the same set, the Prajna shlokas, 62 and 63 shlokas. So I'll just read the shloka. I'll tell you briefly and give you just an example for that. So
Sure.
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषूपजायते सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. So what this tells you is you actually start looking at an object and start developing attachment towards that object. And from that attachment springs desire. From desire, anger is born. From anger, there is delusion. From delusion, loss of memory. And from there, you lose the reasoning capability, and then you are destroyed. So now it feels like a little bit odd how from just watching an object, all this can happen. So to give you two examples, one from our scriptures, the story of Duryodhana, which all of you know. So all that Duryodhana wanted, he did not want to give even, the smallest piece of land to the Pandavas, basically. So just because he wanted to have it all, that that attachment, that desire, that uncontrolled desire to have it all, what did that lead to? The final thing was his own destruction. So now coming back to the more recent times, and all of you have read about this college admission scandal. So what was it? That you wanted your child to get into a college, a well-known college, that's all right. So, but when that is an uncontrolled desire, so it, how your reasoning ability goes away. You irrespective, you don't care how you get it, you just want to get it, and so you violate dharma there. And so what happens? You end up in prison. Basically, I mean, punishment can happen in different ways. Sometimes it may not be that kind of punishment, but mentally there may be a punishment, or the karma theory that plays on too. So basically, you have to control your desires. The next shloka that I wanted to talk about is the shloka that I said I learned early on. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. So the meaning of this is, just as waters from different rivers enters the ocean from all directions, and yet the ocean remains immovable, in the same way, he in whom all desires enter without affecting him, he alone attains peace, but not he who is the desirer of sense objects. So it's very hard to control all desires, but as much as possible, you can realize that the lesser the desires you have, the more happiness you have, basically. So, and then when all desires merge, you are basically, we are all just waves in the ocean. So we want that identity to ourselves, but if we let go of that, then we are the full ocean. So that's what that verse tells us. So the next, okay, that was chapter 2, shloka 7t. And then the next verse I wanted to talk about is about a sattvic gift. This is chapter 17, shloka 20. दातव्यमिति यद्दानं दीयते नुपकारिणे देशे काले च पात्रे च तद्दानं सात्विकं स्मृतम्. So this talks about a sattvic gift. So let me read the meaning and then I'll explain a little. That gift which is made to one who can make no return, with the feeling that it's one's duty to give, and which is given at the right place and time and to a worthy person, that gift is sattvic. So in Bhagavad Gita, it explains about different kinds of gift giving, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic gifts. Um, so basically, we think we all do charity and give. So, but it explains. So that's why early on I told that Bhagavad Gita is an instruction manual. So learning early on, what is charity? What kind of gift is considered charity? What kind of gift is just considered a gift exchange? Like if somebody came to somebody's party and gave some gift, and then you go to another party and give, that's just a gift exchange. But in the charity case, you have to give it to a person who is not even in a position to return it back to you, and you have to give it at the right time. When he needs it, you have to give it, not when you think that, I'm having troubles, I have to do some charity, then something good will happen to me and I give. That's not the time. When he needs it, you need to give, and at the right place you have to give him, and with humbleness you have to give, not with the feeling that, I have money, I'm giving you, I'm helping you, and I'm doing something great. So you have to feel, lucky that you have been given an opportunity to give. So it's teaching you, and each of these things make us more humble and make us more happy people. So then the last verse that I wanted to talk about is chapter 10, shloka 42. Actually, in chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga, Krishna talks about multiple manifestations, the divine manifestations. So like he is the Ashwatha tree, he is the Himalayas, he is Om, he is time, Kala, so everything. And then in the end of that chapter, he says, Athava bahunaitena kim jnatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyamahamidam kritsnam ekanshena sthito jagat. So he says, what's the need is there for me to tell you all this, Arjuna, this detailed knowledge? I am supporting the whole universe with a single fragment of myself. So again, that also shows us that, it's like the entire thing is operated by him. So that makes us, brings down our ego by understanding that what is the level of God's divine manifestations. So those are some of the shlokas that I wanted to talk
about. Very interesting. The couple of other speakers, I asked, they are obviously has a different views, and so, it's very interesting, to say here is that Bhagavad Gita, with the 700 slokas, it has lessons, for everybody, for every life, every time of the life, and so forth. Now, speaking of, everybody, if you can explore a little bit more, I think you already have said, but specifically explore a little bit more, how does this affect to the children, or how do we get, again, the same thing with the, with the Balvihar classes and so forth, how do we get the young children, to get interested in the Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, so I want to talk about 5 shlokas for children and youth, basically.
Please.
So, and that kind of with some examples, so to attract them to read the Gita. Okay, the first is a very popular shloka, and I think others have also mentioned that. Chapter 2, shloka 47. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhuhu ma te sangostva karmani. No matter what conditions you encounter in life, your right is only to the action, not to the fruits thereof. You should not be impelled to act for selfish reasons, nor should you be attached to inaction. So I want to tell you 2 stories that came to my mind when I read this shloka. Personal experiences, basically.
Sure.
So the first one is about the fact that you don't desire the fruit, and just enjoy what you're doing. So this was a national competition called Who Wants to Be a Mathematician that my son participated. So there were a couple of kids, and the way the competition worked is you click on the buzzer, and whoever clicks on it first answers the math question problem and explains how he did it. So there were tough problems and the kids were very smart. Now, I was sitting in the audience there, and I don't know, I was so nervous, and I was telling Ram Nama sitting there. It didn't matter whether he won or he didn't win, but I don't know what happened. But he was there on the stage, and he was the one who I thought should have been nervous. But once the competition finished, I asked him, was he nervous? So he said he was enjoying answering those questions, and he didn't realize the competition ended.
Very good.
So I thought that this was exactly what this verse is saying. So if you enjoy what you're doing, I don't think you really care for what happens. It's good if you win. It's an extra bonus.
Sure.
But if you don't, you can handle it. Now coming to the inaction portion. So now what are we saying? We're saying irrespective of whatever happens, don't expect the fruit. So you'll start asking, why should I even do? Why should I even try in the first place? So only if I know there's a fruit, I'll try. So now for that, I'll give you another small personal experience. There is this competition called MOEMS, which is Math Olympiad for elementary and middle school. And that can be conducted in the school itself. And my son was good in math, and in his elementary school, we wanted his school, he went to a public school from 3rd grade, and we wanted his school to participate in the competition. So we approached the principal in his 3rd grade elementary school and asked him, to enroll the school. We said, we will help and volunteer too, and everything is conducted in school. They'll send the papers and we can do. So, but the principal said, not everybody is smart and good in math, because usually competitions here start from middle school. So elementary, they don't like to have, like national kind of competition. So he was not very much for it and quite reluctant. So we said, okay, so 3rd grade, it didn't happen. So when 4th grade started, so if you want inaction, you said, okay, what, we go there and they won't do anything. So what's the point in going? But this verse is telling us, irrespective of that fruit, you have to keep on doing it. And that's your duty. So we wanted our son to be able to participate in it. So we went to the principal and school authorities in 4th grade and again did the same. Story happened and they didn't start. Now in 5th grade, so there is this Daiva component, which I'll tell in another verse, basically. So it was the Cub Scouts, my son was, and my husband was selling popcorn with the PTA president. And he mentioned to her that this math competition, and we couldn't get it started. And her son was also in the same school and he was also good in math. So she got interested, and there was just one day to register, and then she made sure the school registered. So in 5th grade, the competition was there in the school, and he enjoyed participating, and so did her son as well as a couple of other children. And for a few more years, it continued the competition in school. So that's the part about inaction. Okay. The second verse I wanted to talk about, again, I think one more speaker, Samir, spoke about it. Uddhared atmana atmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. So this is a verse for youth, for children, again, to say that don't, degrade your own self. So sometimes children, they go, adults or young adults also, so they go into depression. They drag their self by themselves, basically. It's nobody else judging them, so they start going down. So this verse tells you that you have to lift your own self, basically. So, and don't degrade yourself. So so that says that basically says that you are your own friend and you are your own enemy. So don't become your own enemy, and you can better yourself up. So the next verse is about the mind control. So Arjuna asks a question, how to control the mind? And it's so difficult. It's like controlling the wind. Can we control the wind? We cannot. So that's how difficult it is. And for children and for young adults, again, that's a big problem. How do you control the mind? Okay, all that you said is right. Don't expect this, don't expect that, but my mind doesn't just listen to me. So Krishna says, asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena jagrihyate. So he says, indeed, the mind is restless and difficult to control, but it can be brought under control by the practice of abhyasa, repeated effort, and vairagya, dispassion or non-attachment, O son of Kunti. So what is he trying to say? And this applies to everything. Practice makes a man perfect, we hear. So repeated effort of anything can change the whole, you can change the course of the river itself. So that repeated effort, and then in the end, when that repeated effort is really persistent, then there is God's grace, and that will happen. So if one wants to, he can do it. So now moving on to one more shloka. I want to talk about, this is like when I said instruction manual. How should our speech be? So this is from chapter 17, shloka 15. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. The speech which causes no excitement, which is truthful, pleasant, and beneficial, and also the practice of sacred recitation. These are said to form the austerity of speech. So, what is it saying? Avoid flattery, read the scriptures, present truth in as pleasant a way as possible. So, as kids and as teenagers and adults, what you notice, some of our children growing up, they decide, I'm honest. I just want to say, even if it hurts somebody. So our scriptures are teaching us, they are very honest and they want to say whatever they want to say. But when the same thing is told, back to them, that's when it hurts them. So, and we as parents also kind of sometimes accept that that's normal. But I think if you give them examples like this and teach them that you can make it more, even truth, make it more palatable, and tell that, and avoid telling lies, and we accept them in the same way. So that's why us learning these shlokas also helps actually.
Yes.
So that's a nice one. And the last one I just wanted to mention is this is a shloka from the 18th chapter. So now the kids feel, right, at the very first shloka I said, you do something and then don't expect result, but there is still small component of hope and all those things. So, and then when they don't get, they get dejected. So there is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita that says that what all goes in to give you the final result, and understanding that makes us realize, even logically you can try to say, okay, so the last component was not there. So let me just read that shloka. Adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prathak vidham vividhascha prathak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam. This is the 18th chapter, shloka 14. It says, Adhishthana, the field, karta, the actor, karana, various instruments, cheshta, the effort, and daiva, destiny, being the fifth. So two examples I can tell you. So one is very simple for anybody to understand, about a farmer. So a farmer, that is the karta, finds a field, that is the adhishtana, with fertile soil to sow the seeds. He then needs the karana, the like plow or whatever instruments. He has to put a lot of effort, cheshta. So now with all this, will he get nice crop? So even with all this, if the temperature outside is too hot or cold, the crop may not grow. So that fifth factor, daiva, operates always. So, and that you can also say as prarabdha or divine will, basically. So as children and as, young adults, if they understand this very well, then the disappointments are fewer. We are saying don't desire result at all, but even this is kind of teaching you that there is other factors. So the same thing applies for adults, for even the self-realization. So finally, the God's grace, that daiva, is needed. So our effort is also needed. So to attain that. So these are some of the shlokas I wanted to share for children and young adults.
So, this was very, very interesting because, one of the young lady I interviewed who is running classes, Balvia classes at Chinmaya Mission in Orlando. She mentioned, when I asked her, I said, how do you get the children interested? And one of her answer was that, give the example, give the stories, because that is the only way they will relate, okay, and that message will go through. So that's very interesting. Now, we have a few minutes left. I know you wrote an article about how Gita transformed your life. Some of our listeners who may not have read the article, if you can kind of briefly explain, how Gita transformed your life.
Yeah, so basically, there are certain shlokas in the Gita which kind of I use at different times based on the situations. So I have mentioned those in that article. So one of the shlokas was this shloka, Karpanya doshopahata swabhavah prachami tvam dharma sammooda chetaha yachreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhi mam tvam prapannam. So this is chapter 2, shloka 7. So this shloka, actually, I heard one of the lectures and it motivated me. So when we are in a state of confusion and we are not able to make a decision, so it is, you're trying to turn towards a higher source for your answers. So you're kind of, there's like Sharanagati, we say. So you're trying to request God's help in helping you decide. So the meaning of this is, my nature is afflicted with the vice of faint-heartedness, and my intellect is confused as to my duty. I entreat you, tell me decisively what's good for me. I am your disciple. I have taken refuge in you. Please do instruct me. So basically, you're having some faith in God and asking for an answer. So really speaking, we ourselves are that Satchidananda. But in our lower moments, we need an external force, we think. So that answer comes from within. But in that kind of in a very humble way, if we have faith in God and request for an answer, it comes. And it has helped me, this shloka, and I have recited this shloka. Then the karmanye vadikaraste, like I said, has also helped me a lot of times in not expecting the fruit and just doing my job as it is. And there was a time when I was looking for a job, and time and again it wouldn't come through. So I had to continue my effort again and again. And so that shloka really helped me. So, and there is another thing that we started many years back, and I would like to just share with the readers. So even if they start, even in a small basis, it probably will bring a lot of result. This was more than maybe 15 years back or something. I was reading Shivananda book, Gita book, and then I somehow thought, if we can make a small beginning of reciting at least one shloka at home, it'll be good. And I spoke to my husband, and he encouraged me. And my son was very small at that time, and we started reading from, I think maybe I picked the 15th chapter. The 15th and 12th are the smallest chapters with only 20 shlokas. So I probably picked the 15th chapter for that reason. And then it was more just to learn to recite one shloka. And we started this experiment. And then as he grew a little older, started reading meaning sometimes, but more for just reciting it. And it became a practice. We covered a couple of chapters, and till today in our house, we recite the 15th chapter every single day.
Oh,
So
very nice. Very nice.
yes, yeah. So we may be washing dishes and doing it, or we may be doing it with other duties that we have to, and we are all busy, and it's normal. And my son learned it too, and we have memorized it. So it's part and parcel of us. And day we sleep without reciting it, we feel something is different. So we were on a trip in India, and I have family in Punjab and Bombay and Bangalore. So we visited all of them. And wherever we went in their house, wherever we were eating dinner, before dinner or after, we recited it. And everybody enjoyed that satsanga. So I think these are small little things, but in every household, if they incorporate, doesn't matter which shloka, even if it's one shloka, but I think it's like it will help itself and grow. And the children also then, if you make this a practice with all of them together, the children then trust it more and then turn towards that. Otherwise, they kind of have a different feeling towards some of these things that we do. So it's nice if this tradition grows, and then for future generations too.
Oh, yeah, no. That's, very good example. Very good. As a matter of fact, if I may interject, one experience or one happening, what is happening in our house. My eldest son, grandson, Keshav, he can recite the whole Hanuman Chalisa, by heart. And so, when we go to India, or when we have a Zoom, call to our, Indian family, they get really surprised, that, the children living in America, they can recite the whole Hanuman Chalisa. So it all, I think, as you mentioned and we talked about, it all depends upon the parent. Parents are the one who need to take a note on these things. So, well, thank you very much, Jyotsna ji. I know you mentioned that you are going to India. If you don't mind and sharing, how, if somebody in South Florida, or anybody for that matter, wants to join your online class, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you want to share my email address, or then I can share my phone number, you have that as well. So usually the way children join my class or parents join my class is they just WhatsApp me their number, and I have a Bhagavad Gita WhatsApp group. So I just add them to that group. And currently my classes are basically, I taught Gita and math. I like math too. So I used to teach competition math, but the last few, more than a year now, my son has been working remotely too, and he is definitely better than me. So he teaches the math portion of it, and I teach the Gita portion. And we also did, since mothers are there, so we did Lalita Sahasranama. We finished the entire Lalita Sahasranama, and now we are starting the Vishnu Sahasranama in that. So usually my classes are on Saturdays, 3 o'clock, 3 to 4 kind of my classes. But next 2 months probably I may not be having classes properly. But however you want us to communicate to the readers, either my email or phone number, and if they're interested and message me, I'll add them and they can participate. I'll send the Zoom link and I'll put them in the Bhagavad Gita group, and that's about it. So they can join.
What about your son teaching math class? Is that happen also once a week?
Yeah, just after mine. And in fact, I have shared, like, all the classes are recorded. So, but mine is, you need the link. I have the entire playlist. But my son's, in fact, I made it public because he teaches for the middle school, high school kind of math, competition level math. And he's very, very good in explaining. He explains multiple methods to do that, and very patiently, and children love it actually. So I have put all his classes, in fact, online on YouTube. So they are welcome to use it also, whatever is there, and join also.
Well, thank you very much. It was very, very interesting, very, very, enlightening. So um, as we get some more feedback, we love to invite you, again after you come back from India on, talking about something, some other topic. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Raji. I enjoyed.